Um,
I think we're gonna wait one more minute. Galen's checking RSVPs just to make sure no one's having a hard time getting in, and then we'll get started.
let's see. Put this in here. Did Zach get in?
I thought I saw him.
Okay, cool.
I'm in, Galen.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Very well. How are you?
Good, 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 good. Good to see everybody. Okay.
Galen, why don't you kick us off?
You want to kick it off? Okay. Thank everybody for coming out today. I'm Galen Hardy. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist with the Office of Sustainability and Innovation. And how we're going to kick it off today, we're going to go around the room. Hopefully everybody can turn your cameras on if you like. Do I have to do something to give them permission to turn them on? Okay. We're going to go through the room and do some introductions. You know, we want to ask, what neighborhood are you from? A good summer memory, and your name and first and last name. So I'm Galen Hardy, Office of Sustainability and Innovations, Community Engagement Specialist. And my favorite summer memory is defeating COVID. Yes, everybody, you know, the resilience of it, you know, I think it's brought us together in different ways that we would have never even imagined. I mean, we would have never imagined sitting here, you know, doing a Hollywood Square. So that's one of my favorite memories that I'll always treasure. We're all class of 2020. Missy Stoltz.
Everyone, thank you for inviting us into your home. It is lovely to see you all. My name is Missy Stoltz, and I'm really fortunate to be the director of the Office of Sustainability and Innovations here in the city of Ann Arbor. Whew, my favorite memory. Oh man, you know, I actually think it's been a delightful weather summer, and I have loved taking calls outside, getting more time to actually be outside, being home, and being with my 5-year-old in those spaces. So those impromptu moments when she Zoom bombs my calls are actually some of my favorite moments.
Good one. Julie Roth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Roth. And I think we were supposed to say our neighborhood too, right?
Yes.
So I live in Ann Arbor in what I think is called the River Ridge neighborhood in the sort of northwest area of town, kind of by the river. And so my favorite memory from this summer, Galen, is that, or
Yes.
like from summers past? Okay, from
this summer.
All right.
This is so special.
I guess for this summer, it's going to be the COVID-forced long walks in woods and exploring different kind of natural areas with my daughters, because usually they wouldn't walk with me, but now they have nothing else to do. so they walk with me, and they say yes when I say, you want to go for a walk? So I guess that.
All right, good one. Simi Bar.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Simi Barr. I am the Energy Fellow in the Office of Sustainability and Innovations. I'm not sure what my neighborhood's called. I live near the mall, though, so South Ann Arbor. Favorite memory, sort of similar to Julie's. I've been just getting outside a whole lot, you know, exploring Ann Arbor. For the first couple of years I was here, I was busy with school the whole time. So I've really been taking advantage of the nice weather and biking around, seeing all our great parks and outdoor areas.
All right, thank you. Henry Love.
All right, I am I unmuted? Okay, I am Henry Love. I'm the president of the Glacier Highlands Neighborhood Association, also a friend of Ann Arbor, A2ZERO crew, and my favorite summer memory, well, I had a baby this year, so in June on my birthday, so that's got to be my favorite. And during my wife's maternity leave, since we're all working remotely, I have been able to work from Higgins Lake, hence the redness of my face. So just got back from there yesterday.
All right, thank you. Jack Cedarquist.
Hi, yeah, I live in the Orchard Hills neighborhood, and I guess I've been interested in renewable energy and low carbon emissions for a long time. So I want to learn more. I've reviewed all the documents, but I want to learn more about how we're going to implement this plan going forward.
Okay. Adam Hughes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam. I am the president of the Rose White Neighborhood Association, over kind of just adjacent to, from Lower Burns Park there on the corner of Stadium and Industrial. My favorite summer memory, I kind of manage a small team. We are working on building a development on the corner of Stadium and Industrial that's kind of focused on sustainability and a little bit of co-working, co-living, shared economy kind of stuff. And so tackling, you know, making people not afraid of each other in a time when we're in a global pandemic, I think has been one of my favorite memories. It's been a riveting summer, to say the least, and we've still got a lot of work ahead, but it's been fun to kind of figure out ways to collaborate with people and stay safe. So that's what we're currently working on and trying to figure out more, and I'm excited to see what this meeting holds.
All right. All right. Jessica Schwab.
Hi, my name is Jessie Schwab. I live in Superior Township, but I'm here primarily as a representative from Sunrise Ann Arbor. And I think my favorite summer memories, similar to what some other people have talked about, is long bike rides and just being out in nature.
Awesome. Awesome. John Baranek.
Hi, I think I'm unmuted now.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is John Baronic. I'm part of the North Central Neighborhood Association, which is a lot of people don't know North Central. It's kind of the old name of the neighborhood. It's kind of the Carytown area. And this summer, I think the most interesting thing this summer has been actually working from home and not traveling and actually watching all of my plants and flowers and everything in the yard grow and change over the year, which it seems like I miss a lot of that. So it's been nice.
Awesome. Awesome. John Held.
Yeah, that's me. I'm president of the Brookside subdivision down south off Stone School. And I'm going to be a team player and say my favorite memory from this summer is the A2ZERO effort. Best thing ever.
All right.
Yeah.
Carl Held.
That's my brother.
Hey, brother. He's my brother, too.
Hi. Thanks, guys. I'm Carl. I apologize. I'm actually crashing this meeting. I live in Potomac, Maryland, but John allowed me to link in here, and I wanted to keep track of what you're doing here because my favorite memory from this summer in the May was Missy coming in early June and taking an hour and a half of her time to explain the A2 carbon neutral plan to 70 people in Montgomery County, including a number of county staff, as an example of what you can really accomplish if you really put your heart into it. And I want to track this and learn more about how you're implementing it for the sake of my county.
All right. Kate Pepin.
Hi, I'm Kate Pepin. I'm in Huron Highlands up off Pontiac Trail. It's the last left on your way out of town. And it's appropriate. So our community is very close knit. And I think that we tried several years ago to do some energy work here that would have violated ordinances or something. I would have been a utility and found I wasn't allowed to be at the time, but we're still doing. I mean, a number of houses have solar panels, and it's just wonderful to see what people are doing. And I suppose my favorite memory this summer is just recently when I was out in the yard. This is my first summer being retired, so I kind of expected to be around more. but not this much. And but out in the yard and seeing squash vines growing up trees and producing squash that's hanging from my apple tree. So
Awesome, awesome. Patricia Jessup.
Hi, I'm Pat Jessup, and I live in the Lakewood neighborhood, and along with a couple of other neighborhoods, we make up the Sister Lakes Association. And we're been getting ourselves reorganized lately. So, and developing basically a neighborhood support network focused a lot on aging in place as well. Because we have a number of us who are in that category. But I think the fun thing for me this summer is because, as someone else said, I also was starting into sort of semi-retiring this summer. So that, along with COVID, has left me with more time to be in my garden. And that has been really fun.
Awesome, awesome. Vivian Armentrout.
can you unmute her?
Vivian, you're muted. We're going to try to unmute you.
Is she? Okay, there we go.
I'm the representative for Sunset Hilltop Association, which is the area that's known on next door as Upper Water Hill, which is a really dumb name, but I didn't give it that. Anyway, it's not an active neighborhood association, and the way I fulfill my responsibilities is that any announcements, and I've already reported the agenda for this meeting, any announcements I put onto Nextdoor directed to Upper Water Hill, and I hope it gets there. We're not, as far as I can tell, a very mobilized group. I did offer at one time to have a meeting, but no one wanted to have a meeting, so we're just sort of hanging in here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wendy Carmen.
I'm Wendy Carmen. I'm the president of the Orchard Hills Maplewood Homeowners Association. Some of you might know me from my work on the Natural Features Subcommittee of the Environmental Commission. I think my favorite memory of this summer is meeting with my brother at my nephew's farm out on Steinbach Road, just out Jackson Road, and seeing my family for the first time after quarantining for 6 months. So,
Well, thank you all. Thank you all. I want to change my memory. My best memory is meeting all you guys today. So I just wanted to update that. Right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Missy Stoltz. We're gonna kick off our presentations, and give me 1 second. I'll start sharing the screen for you.
And while you do that, Zach, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach. I'm last, but hopefully not least, but although that may be my legacy, we'll see. I live east of Ann Arbor. I am an engagement specialist like Galen in the office, and I think the office actually has been probably my most memorable. I have joined them officially during COVID, so that's definitely a highlight of mine to finally be on the team.
Excellent.
All right, thank you all. Thank you all. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? All right.
Thanks, Galen, for pulling that up. Well, again, thank you all for making space and inviting us into your homes. What we want to do today, there's just a few things we want to share, kind of some level setting, and then we actually want to hear from you about opportunities. And so some of what we've got teed up to share is not meant to be one-way information flow. It's actually to see if it seems interesting to you and your association, or per Vivian. By the way, it's lovely to meet you, Vivian, and see you. That maybe it'll be something that could invigorate folks or bring folks together. So this is a free range opportunity to discuss what might resonate with you and what may not. I think Galen's still pulling this up. Want to acknowledge many of you have engaged with us through the A2ZERO process. Actually, almost every single one of you I know your name in some way, shape, or form. Some of you I know in a much more in-depth space in that. And so I want to thank you for all of the feedback. Wherever you fell in the spectrum of what you want Ann Arbor to be, we hear you and we are excited to collaborate with you to hopefully operationalize those various visions. So for those who may not be as familiar with A2ZERO, Galen, can you make that? There we go. You can go to that third slide. The vision of A2ZERO is this. It's that together we're creating and implementing a just transition to community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030. The logo and the tag of A2ZERO are going to permeate pretty much everything you see our office doing in the next 10 years, because this is audacious. This is progressive, and this is hard to figure out how we're actually going to achieve carbon neutrality in the next decade. And we are excited and inspired by it. And sometimes, I'll be honest, we're overwhelmed by the task. And so we have to work with everyone in the community to make this wildly successful. It just is not going to work if we don't. So with that, and you can transition to the next slide, Galen. We did have, A2ZERO was unanimously passed on, we say June 1st, but for anyone who's a brave soul and was with us, it was technically June 2nd, because we were in the wee hours of the morning by the time it passed. But A2ZERO is our strategy for how we're going to achieve it. It's a living strategy. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's going to change, right? And so if you go to the next slide, what A2ZERO is really built around are 7 strategies. And they're listed here. And we're going to spend most of our time in the strategies. And then we're going to give you a few example projects that are underway to see if that excites you, or if you have ideas, if they kind of stimulate any brainstorming you might want to do about other things that are really resonant in your neighborhood. So the 7 strategies are, the first 3 are energy focused, and that's about powering our electrical grid with 100% renewable energy. And for us in this region, the 2 most viable energy sources are solar and geothermal. And so how are we going to do as much local generation as possible? How are we going to do regional generation? And how are we going to pave a way, that's a horrible word, how are we going to set a path towards scalability and transferability of our work? So one of the principles that we talk a lot about is making sure the solutions that we seek in Ann Arbor don't just stay in Ann Arbor. So we want to find solutions that our partners in Ypsilanti can take on, or the county who just passed a similar goal, a 2030 carbon neutrality commitment. Are we finding solutions that they can actually use and contextualize? The second is what we call beneficial electrification. So how are we going to transition our fossil fuel dependent vehicles or appliances over to that electric grid that's now clean and renewable? But we can't necessarily do that without the third, which is how are we going to tie energy efficiency with that beneficial electrification? We pay the highest electric rates in the Great Lakes region in our service territory. That's a problem. We know that's a problem, and we are going to continue to challenge DTE through policy proceedings and legal intervention, because that's not acceptable. And we have a lot of momentum and a lot of partners that are helping us really challenge those rates. But regardless, we need to make sure that we're not just electrifying things without making sure the infrastructure that we sit in is efficient. And all of us are spending far more time in this infrastructure right now. It's not just about efficiency, it's about comfort. I don't know about you, you're in my home with me right now. I tell people this, I'm in a converted closet. There was no heat and there was no air conditioning in here. It is miserable, right? Like, I now know this in a way that I don't really hang out in the closet a lot. So I wouldn't have realized this part of my house doesn't have good circulation. So I know I'm going to make an improvement, an investment in improving that infrastructure. And when I make that improvement, I'm going to lower my energy bills, making electrification more accessible. The fourth strategy is reducing the miles we travel in our vehicles by 50%. Now, I will tell you, if you followed us in the A2 journey, I openly talked about how, to me, this was the hardest strategy to see through, because I could see the energy work. The technology is here. We have to piece some things together. It's a policy game that we're playing in the energy space. But this one's behavior change. Well, COVID came, and I hate COVID with a vengeance. But what it did teach us is that teleworking is far more viable for some people than we ever thought possible. So in the second week of COVID, we hit a 50% VMT reduction in our community. Now, I don't want COVID to last. But again, those strategies that telework is possible for some, but disproportionately accessible, is an important thing for us to understand. What are we doing as a city in terms of who comes back into the office versus who's capable of working remotely? Those are the kinds of things we're thinking about within this strategy. The fifth is about our relationship with things, right? So the materials we buy and we use. Why are we buying them? How are we using them? And what do we do when we're done with them? How do we make sure that effectively, for those kind of familiar with the vernacular, this is really about getting to a circular economy where there really isn't waste in the system. Things are just repurposed for an alternative use. So how do we do that? And how do we generate local markets to receive that information or make investments where we can talk about this if you're interested, what happened with the recycling markets. You know, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. And for the vast majority of us, we came at an environmental ethos through this space because it's really intimate in terms of how we use materials and what we do with them at the end of their life. The sixth may seem odd when we're talking about carbon neutrality, but it's acknowledging that climate change is already here. We're already experiencing the impacts. You need look no farther than California or what's happening in the Gulf, or the extreme heat that keeps moving through the region, the lack of precipitation that we actually have experienced over the last several weeks. We can see a very clear trend line, and even in weather analysis, we can see the thumbprint now scientifically of climate change on what it's done to disrupt even weather patterns and individual disasters. So mitigating is really, really critical, or reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. But we also have to acknowledge that we need to help our residents and our natural systems and our neighborhoods enhance resilience, because climate change is here. So we think a lot about resilience from all perspectives, from the emergency preparedness side of things. Do you have a kit? Are you prepared? To the bigger social cohesion elements. Do you know your neighbors? Because in a disaster, that's who's going to be the first to help. Hopefully, is someone that knows you and understands your situation. So how do we foster neighborhood social cohesion, and then other kinds of infrastructure, be that physical or social infrastructure, to help our residents not just bounce back after a disaster, but bounce forward and really thrive. And then the last category sometimes seems like a little bit of a cheat, but there are these other things, and these other things don't belong in any one category. They belong in all of them. So our equity work. Our equity work is a cornerstone of the work that we do. How do we make sure that people, especially our frontline and minority populations, aren't disproportionately bearing the burden of this transition that we're going through? Or our grant program, which we're going to talk about tonight. We have funding available that you guys and your neighborhood associations can apply for this funding. You are explicitly called out. You can get up to $10,000 to implement a project that advances sustainability. And I mean that broadly. You will have to apply and it'll go through a review panel, but we don't have all the answers. And that's pretty foolish to assume that we do. You know your neighborhoods and what they need. So this is funding to help unlock your knowledge and your creativity to implement solutions to enhance sustainability in your place. So this is A2ZERO. These are the kind of the pillars or the foundation, depending on how you want to think about it. And then the scaffolding around it are these 44 actions. And we're going to talk about a few of those actions today that are in motion. We have we have a lot of things in motion. So happy to talk about anything you guys want to dive more deeply into. But Galen, if you go to the next slide. This is overwhelming. Here are the 44 actions. You can see these on 2 different locations. You can go to the a2zero.org website, or thanks to the really incredible work of folks like Zach, we are about to relaunch our website, and Zach can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's live today. We're waiting for our IT system to take down our old site and stand up the new one, but all of this is going to be on the new site, which should go live this week. So you'll be able to access the A2ZERO plan and dive into these actions in more depth. If you go to the next, actually, before we go to the next slide, I want to call out a few things just to flag really quick. No, it's not you, Galen, it's me. I heard aging in place. We've been talking to the Sister Lakes Association about this too. One of the grants that we won, and we're launching a program, we kicked it off 2 weeks ago, is an Aging in Place Efficiently grant. And that's helping our seniors, especially our low-income seniors, age in a place of their choosing for longer by combining social services, our aging in place kind of infrastructure that we have, the social services that go with that, with physical improvements to the home. So that may mean literally a ramp for a wheelchair, or it may mean widening hallways so a wheelchair can get through, or grab bars. But it also means energy efficiency improvements so that we can make that infrastructure as comfortable as possible for that senior so they can stay in that home longer because it is more comfortable and because their energy bills are reduced. So it's a 2-year grant program. The very first year is actively setting up the program, we are going to be hiring someone who has experience working with low-income seniors or being a low-income senior. We're going to hire 2 program associates through the grant to help us create the program. So if you know of anyone or you're interested in joining on our team, that is one opportunity where we really are seeking active community help. So to close out my portion, I know I'm rambling at you. You're all beautiful and so kind to receive this. We don't just have A2ZERO, we have a lot more behind it. And if you want to dive deep into kind of the infrastructure that exists, these are 3 supporting documents. There's also FAQs, and there's Q&A sessions that we have on the website, and we continue to kind of populate this as people ask us questions. What we've got, in addition, screenshots up here at the top in the blue and green kind of graphic, this is our governance model. I've told you A2ZERO is living, but how is it living? How are we going to change it? And so the governance model unpacks the activities that are going to happen every year, regardless. We have to have an annual survey of residents, an A2ZERO summit, a dashboard, council work sessions, regular community engagement processes. Who are the decision makers and when do they intervene in that decision process? So we want to be as transparent as possible at how we're governing A2ZERO. The image behind it, the matrix, is our prioritization framework. So every action in A2ZERO had to go through this framework. So we set this up and we evaluated hundreds of actions to identify the top performers that kind of rounded out these criteria. Well, new ideas are going to emerge. You probably have some right now that you want to put forward, and I want to receive those. What we're telling folks is, for consistency, new ideas have to be evaluated through this prioritization framework, just like the existing ideas did. So we have some comparability of rigor in how we move forward. And then last, the one in the background is our investment plan. A2ZERO is going to take resources. It's going to take financial resources, human resources, and I can't read the tea leaves 10 years into the future. So what we did is create an investment plan that is one roadmap for how we could get to full implementation of resources for A2ZERO. Then we pulled out what resources already exist, and we started and we have decision points. So we'll continue to look for funding to supplement the ideas that are in that. So those are just some background documents, fully transparent. Please take a look, share your feedback. Galen. And I think that's kind of the overview of A2ZERO. I'm going to kick it off to Julie Roth, who is going to talk to you a little bit about a very cool program called SOLARIZE. Before I do, any burning questions on A2ZERO? Yes, Vivian.
Are all of these going to be on a recording or on the website? Where will we see these?
We're recording this right now, and I apologize, I should have said that at the beginning, and we'll make the recording available to everyone after this conversation.
Thank you.
Misty?
Yes.
What are you considering low-income seniors in Ann Arbor?
We were looking at 80% of area median income, but we have some flexibility. So we're hoping that actually partners will help us identify really what that threshold should look like. The funders are a national funder paired with the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. And so they're being pretty flexible. Good question. All right, Julie.
What is 80% equal to? Do you know?
I will, by the time I come back on to talk. I'll have that for you.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Julie Roth. I realized I didn't introduce my role when I introduced my memory, but I am working with the Office of Sustainability as a SOLARIZE program coordinator. This SOLARIZE is a program that tries to tackle especially the first, but 1, 2, and 3 of those overarching strategies that Missy was just talking about. Powering our grid with 100% renewable clean energy, electrifying gas appliances, and improving energy efficiency. You can go to the next slide. Caitlin, thank you. So again, this is just an example of one very neighborhood focused program that we're currently working on. And if this sounds interesting to any of you, this is going on. So you can jump in, you can learn how to participate. So what we know is that DTE's grid is a mess. It's not clean, it's dirty, and that it's likely to be cleaned up more slowly than we want. And Missy and all of the great legal people and people that are not me are going to be working very hard on trying to get either DTE to clean up or get someone else to provide our energy, or whatever strategy that takes. We know it's going to be slow, and we know it's going to meet legal challenges. We also know that as we electrify everything, we're going to be overloading the grid quite a bit. The more energy that we can produce within our city borders, not only are we offloading the grid, we're creating kind of resilience in the grid over time, and we're getting every single kilowatt that we can produce here in our borders is 1 kilowatt that we're not producing with coal or natural gas, and has no emissions. So the goal is to try to get as much solar on as many surfaces in Ann Arbor as we possibly can. And the SOLARIZE program tackles specifically the residential community. So you can go to the next slide. In addition to the urgency of doing this, from a climate change perspective, according to the science and according to A2ZERO's goals, the wonderful thing is that this is segueing perfectly right now with reduction in cost of doing it. The cost of solar has probably halved in the last 10 years, which is pretty extraordinary. So the cost of putting solar on your home has come down dramatically. If you've looked at it 10 years ago, you should look at it again. At the same time, as Missy mentioned outright, the cost of electricity is going up, and that does not seem to see an end in sight. Those lines that you see on that graph right there of cost of electricity, those are all the sort of Midwestern states, and that top green one, that's us, that's Michigan. We have the highest cost of electricity, and it keeps going up. So at the same time, solar is going down and the cost of electricity is going up. So if you finance solar panels, your cost actually stays level until they're paid off and then dramatically drops. So there's a real cost, there's greater accessibility to this technology than there ever has been before. Galen, you can change slides. So what the SOLARIZE program is it's a bulk buy neighborhood-based opportunity. So essentially we're gathering friends and neighbors, community members, colleagues, family together in a Zoom meeting to learn about solar and have the opportunity to do a kind of a bulk buy purchase, getting volume discount that's been pre-negotiated with participating installers. I originally envisioned this as a very neighborhood-based thing, but as it turns out, it turns out to be like Washtenaw County. So we like to make it some kind of geographical cohesion, but people can participate in a neighborhood group even if they're not right in that neighborhood. We've defined it kind of loosely. And the next slide. So basically how it works, we have around 10 currently participating installers in the local region, and we've pre-negotiated discounts with them that show here at the bottom. And essentially if 10 or more households come together and get solar at the same time from that participating installer, everyone gets up to a 15% discount, which is it's a big discount, especially when you combine it with the current federal tax discount, which is going away after next year. This year it's 26%, next year 22%, and then it's gone. So all of this is trying to get this kind of a real robust financial incentive to move forward. Next slide. And the meetings themselves are actually fun, if a Zoom meeting can be fun, but I think it's fun. And we do all kinds of learning. We learn about solar and how it works. We learn about costs and payback time, financing. We learn about emissions reductions. We get the installers at the meeting that's participating in that particular group buy, and they answer roofing questions and battery questions and all the questions that anybody ever had about solar. We talk about energy efficiency and how making sure that we are not air conditioning the outdoors also results in needing a smaller solar array to be able to power our homes. We talk about electrification of appliances, switching gas stoves to induction stoves, things like that, and then powering them from your roof. Same thing with cars. We've addressed HOAs, homeowner associations, and boards and things like that, historic districts. And the best part is we get to see all these people and talk about solar, and we find out that, in fact, so many people are really interested in this. And this program, this educational component and the financial incentives and coming together as a group really tends to overcome people's inertia around this, or nervousness, or not understanding the technology. And we've had huge success just getting solar all over houses, and increased local jobs. We've already, I think I've heard from various solar installers that they hiring engineers, hiring paid interns, hiring installation crews. And so it's helping to grow the market, and it's helping us meet our goals in A2ZERO. I think there's one more slide, maybe. Yes, so just a little sample. This is a Burns Park home. This particular homeowner had a very small energy usage. That I think the average statewide is about 5 kilowatts, and the average size in Ann Arbor is more like 7.5 kilowatt arrays of solar. But this family had around a little under 4 kilowatt need, and they participated in the SOLARIZE group. Actually, they hosted one and helped form one. They had their cost would have been about $14,500 prior to the federal tax discount, and the SOLARIZE discount ended up being about $8,700. And their payoff time, they finance, and by the time they've their reduced energy costs have paid for the solar in about 9 years, which is lower than the average, which is coming around usually more around 12 or 13. And after that, then it'll just be paying them because they will have reduced energy costs, and their initial investment will be paid off. So anyway, that is SOLARIZE. That is the program. And so I'm always recruiting hosts to help form groups and reach out to neighbors and other people who want to join groups that are currently coming together. So yeah, that's it. And I don't know if people have questions, or we can wait till later, or Missy, I don't know how you want to do that.
I would say let's take some questions.
Okay, sure. If anybody has questions.
I have questions. It's Kate Pepin. Two things. Is it required to do a loan to participate in solar? You can do direct purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep,
And
direct purchase, or you can finance it. There's a green bank called Michigan Saves, which does low interest financing for energy efficiency upgrades, and that includes solar. And right. All the installers work with them, or you can just buy it.
Okay. And then, are you working with maybe DTE or maybe with the state to force DTE to allow us to put more solar on our homes? Because mine is limited based on what my previous use was, even though I wasn't charging my car at home. And I retired in December, and now I'm charging my car at home. And so now I have a 6 kilowatt solar array that should conceivably fill all my needs if I put a battery in the house somewhere, which I don't have yet. I'd like to do that. But
so yeah, to
charge the car.
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, they won't approve more than you're using, but if you make an investment in something like an electric vehicle that you didn't have when you got your initial solar, they will approve an increased size in your system. Yeah. So they will allow you to add on if you are electrifying things and anticipate higher usage, even without being able to demonstrate that usage. But you're right. And
Mine
I think
was a catch-22 example, but so we're not working with them to allow us to produce more energy so that we could potentially power the streetlights.
Yeah, that would be really nice. And there are a lot of balls in the air when it comes to DTE and how the city is trying to engage with them. They are intricate part of so much of what we want to do and need to do. So much of the legislative changes that we're going to need to make in Lansing. We have carrots, we have sticks. So I think that this is part of the picture. But right now they have not budged in that realm.
And is your program active right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thriving.
So I've talked 4 friends into putting solar in, and they already have. But I think 2 of us want to put batteries in, maybe 3. And so and that's just in the last couple months. So I'd love to get involved.
Fantastic. Yep. Most of the installers are including batteries in their discount structure. 1 or 2 are discounting solar, but not batteries, but most of them are discounting batteries. And so we can definitely reach out and, create groups in your neighborhood or with your contacts if you'd like.
Could you put your email back up so that I can get the rest of it?
And we'll also send a follow-up with the slide and the emails to contact.
Okay,
That'd
that's fine.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
It's also on the website. If you go to www.a2gov.org/solar, the program description is on the website, and you can read about it there, and my email's there.
And I want to take this quick pause to point out a few things. One, Kate, to your question, it accounts to just under 60,000 as in terms of income for low-income seniors. Second point is not everyone can have rooftop solar. Not everyone can have ground-mounted solar. Not everyone owns their home. Some of us have beautiful trees that block solar. And so part of A2ZERO is, and this gets to the legislation, is actually working across that spectrum. So how do we help people who can generate their own energy? How do we move community solar legislation forward, which is currently not allowed, as my cat agrees at the moment. It's very disturbing. But how are we? So we're actively working with our state legislators and the MPFC, the Michigan Public Service Commission, to try to get community solar forward. And this is something we're working with DTE on because we're ready. I mean, it's coming and we're ready to do it. And then we're also looking at aggregation. And what we talk about in A2ZERO is community choice aggregation, but there are other models of aggregation that we are actively exploring because we, in 10 years, can't do this household by household on everything. So how are we going to aggregate? So I just wanted to acknowledge that openly, that there isn't one path. We're talking about one option on the table. So just thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if we're raising hands or.
Go ahead.
Just with the SOLARIZE program, are, like kind of was mentioned, are alternate structures, can they be part of the program, ground mounted solar or, carport structures and things like that?
I have someone doing a pergola or something, like a freestanding thing, and carports, and I've ground mounts and awning. I have someone doing a solar awning. They're creating an awning over their patio made of solar. So yes, anywhere you can stick it, it can be stuck.
Great, thanks.
So I'm Vivian Armentrout. I had a question. Do you know whether those tax credits are refundable?
Refundable.
Okay, there are 2 kinds of tax credits. One, you just subtract them from your tax bill. Some, if you have too small a tax bill that's no longer useful to you, you can actually get it back as a credit.
I'd have to check.
Well, it would be of importance to those of us who are at that 80% AMI or so.
What I can tell you is that I know one thing is that they roll, if your income allows you to take part of the tax credit, this particular federal program allows you to roll it into the second year to take another chunk of it. But I don't believe that that you can get a sort of a rebate if you don't qualify, but I don't actually know that.
Well, it would be a useful detail.
Yep, I agree.
Although it's not going to be a program for very long, but if it's still part of the program, that's a useful detail because some of us actually just have too low an income to use a tax credit, frankly. Sure. Another question is, do you have any sense that people are trying to forecast future costs of solar panels, because we have all these trade issues with China and there are material source issues? I just wonder if there's any effort. Of course, predicting the future is probably impossible, but I just wanted to bring it up, because you can't assume that trend that you saw is going to continue. Of reduction in cost, I mean.
Right, that predicting the future is hard. It's hard to know whether the federal government will renew another tax credit, if the federal government will change, if the state government will.
I'm actually more concerned with the supply end.
Right. So I have not. I equally inadequate at trying to predict the future of that.
I'm just raising the question. You don't have to be perfect tonight.
Okay. So to answer your question, I don't know.
Okay.
This is John Held.
Yeah.
I have a question. This maybe leads on to another topic, but is there a similar effort for heat pumps? Because my next big purchase is probably going to be a furnace and a hot water heater, and so I'm wondering about the future for that.
Oh, the future is bright. I'll let Missy jump in there.
Okay.
Yeah, John. So we, to kind of give probably more detail than you want, the city won a small grant to convene a bunch of different stakeholders around beneficial electrification. So the Rocky Mountain Institute is partnering with us, as is Henry Love on the call today, and a few other stakeholders to actually craft a program that would help with electrification. That includes Mitsubishi and other manufacturers of the technologies coming to the table to help us figure out what might be possible. I just identified the date about 2 hours ago for when that meeting is going to take place. So if you can bear with us through this winter, I'll have something for you in the spring that'll be pretty fabulous, I think.
I'll talk to my furnace.
Okay, talk to that first. Give it some love, a hug, a blanket.
Okay. Thanks.
Good, excellent. Okay, I don't know who's, I think Simi is up. But I can take more questions later too, and also offline.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Julie. So I'm going to speak about a few different programs. So again, my name's Simi. I'm the Energy Fellow in the Office of Sustainability. Most of my work focuses in the transportation electrification space. So I'm going to talk about a few projects and initiatives we have going on that are sort of in that transit and electrified transportation realm, as well as non-motorized transportation. So I'll start with the e-bike discount program. So just last month, we launched a program in collaboration with our office, the Common Cycle Co-op, a local nonprofit, and Human Electric Hybrids, which is a local bike shop. So we started our pilot program, which we're calling the e-bike discount program. And we decided on these two models of electronic bicycle that you can see on the right, that have been discounted from Human Electric Hybrids. And what they've chosen to offer is a $100 discount off the purchase price, and then $50 in store credit for accessories and that sort of thing. And we are working to expand this program into other vendors and beyond e-bikes. So currently talking to other bike shops in the area, trying to get traditional bikes more accessible, as well as bike accessories, maintenance services, all these types of things. We've got a great network of local bike shops, and we've got goals that are in alignment in terms of transportation and reducing our vehicle miles traveled, and that allows for gives a great opportunity for collaboration. So let's move on, Galen, unless we've got any questions. Great. Next, we've got a more comprehensive EV strategy and this sort of planning. And what we're doing is building this comprehensive strategy to achieve transportation goals defined in A2ZERO. And there are a whole lot of actions that we can take to achieve those goals, and necessary actions include fleet electrification of our public bus fleet, as well as public schools bus fleet electrification, EV policy at the state level, EV bulk buys, which are sort of analogous to what Julie described with SOLARIZE. There are multiple communities who have done bulk buys at this point with electric vehicles, where you can collaboratively negotiate and achieve discounts from OEMs as well as dealerships, and then plus the tax credits available for electric vehicles. There have been some very successful EV bulk buys, and we'd like to try to emulate that here as well. City fleet electrification, expansion of EV charging infrastructure around town, our EV Readiness Ordinance. All these are pieces of this comprehensive EV strategy plan. And we're working with various entities, including the Energy and Transportation Commissions, to design these programs and then sort of build selection and prioritization criteria so that we can know what to sort of attack first in that sense. Let's go to the next slide. Great, so I mentioned expanding EV charging infrastructure around town, and this is just one facet of that. So we're working on getting some DC fast chargers put in at City Hall, and they're looking at 4 of these charge point units for the Ann Street lot on the north side of the City Hall building. And there are significant rebate opportunities that are available and that we're pursuing heavily. So we've had a commitment from DTE, who's pledged $100,000 through their Charging Forward rebate program, and we're also pursuing another $70,000 grant in state funding, which is from the VW settlement funds. And our tentative, hopefully we can get these things installed before December. Some of our goals here, as well as providing that EV charging infrastructure, is we're sort of, we're navigating these rebate programs and that sort of things so that we can become, a strong resource in the EV space as more of the community transitions. Got one more slide in there, Galen? Yeah, so I mentioned that EV Readiness Ordinance as well. And what that is, I'm sure most of you have maybe heard, but work began in 2018 between the Office of Sustainability, the Transportation Commission, and the Ecology Center to develop an EV Readiness Ordinance. A lot of their work was researching different zoning ordinances that have passed in other municipalities, of which there are many. It was recently reviewed by the Planning Commission and will likely make its first appearance before City Council just next month. So that's very exciting. It requires new site plans and new construction to include EV infrastructure. So basically we've got these 3 levels of EV infrastructure that need to go in parking spots, depending on the use of whatever the commercial or residential sort of businesses. But we've got these EV ready spots, EV capable, and then EV installed. Are there any questions about this or any of the other couple programs and projects I mentioned quickly?
This is John Held again.
Yeah.
I got a question about, is there a plan on, do you have any idea where these charging places would be? How distributed? That type of that thinking?
Yeah, so the ones I mentioned it's a plan for 1 parking lot at City Hall. However, as we build out the more comprehensive planning strategy, locating charging around the city is a priority there and will be addressed. At this point, there is we don't have a robust system of placing chargers, but this is not the only EV infrastructure project that's being worked on through our office. And again, we're only working on city facilities. So right now we're looking at places like city halls, city garages, and that sort of thing, and leaving it more to the private side for their whatever their needs may be.
Simi, could you tee up the work that we're looking to do with the DDA on level 2 charging, just to give people?
Yeah, so we're looking into, we're working with the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, who manages certain garages in the downtown area. So there are about 6 parking garages that the DDA owns and manages. And we're looking to see if we can add in at least 100 level 2 chargers in those garages in the next year. So working with the DDA to place those chargers throughout those garages, depending on the electrical infrastructure that's there. So actually right now, DTE and the DDA are completing an electrical capacity study of those garages, which hasn't been done in about 7 or 8 years now. So it'll give us a really good idea of what locations are most suitable. And then from there, we can begin implementing and getting some of that funding secured, because those methods of funding I mentioned with the DC fast chargers, those are available widely for level 2 as well. So at least the DTE money is available for level 2 charging. I think the round of funding that Eagle is on right now, I don't believe DCFCs are included, but I actually might be wrong about that. I think DCFCs and level 2 are included right now in Eagle funding as well. So there's quite a bit of funding out there. And like I mentioned, we're trying to navigate that process so we can be a resource as others in the community begin to as well. There are more questions? I can't see everybody, so if you got one, maybe just shout it out.
I just this is Jack Cedarquist. It would be nice to see, you can't probably do this yet, but be nice to see, I can imagine a sort of spreadsheet or equation or something that would talk about how effective electric vehicles are at actually reducing carbon, given DTE's reliance on coal. And you might factor in how much braking and going downhill, how much can an EV reclaim just from its environment, like the current hybrid cars. And then I guess also it would be good to have more numbers about, and all of these things have to be sort of models and approximate, I guess, but still, I think it sort of needs to be done. Obviously, some people are going to try to charge their EV from their solar panels, so it'd be good to have real ability to do those calculations. If you want to encourage somebody to put on solar or buy an electric vehicle, it would be really good to be able to run the numbers on individual cases. That's just sort of if you haven't already done that, that's just sort of that's a project to work on.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. That's a great point. We want quantitative work to back up as much of this as we can. So I think those models are things we've worked on, but will be fleshed out, absolutely. And I mentioned sort of that prioritization framework and working through our EV plan, and that modeling comes in there as well as we decide what to tackle first. Those decisions are ideally made with as much basis in data as possible.
And if I can jump in, I would just add that as part of the A2ZERO strategy, there's been a considerable amount of modeling, and the goal is to start electrifying everything even before the grid is substantially cleaned up. So it's a moving target, right? As the grid gets cleaner and cleaner, charging your electric vehicle and your electrifying your home, that the carbon intensity of that reduces. And so, but if we wait until the grid is all the way cleaned up, we're already years and years into our 10-year goal. So we are actually front loading with electrification, waiting for the magic moment when hopefully the grid is dramatically, well, it won't be magic, it'll be a lot of work. The grid is very much cleaner. So that modeling's been done and is continuing to go on within the Office of Sustainability, and it's a moving target.
So Jack, again, nice to hear. I'm interested in the quantitative details. It was interesting when City Council voted to approve this, that DTE representative actually called in and basically said, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to me they said, we're not buying into your plan. So maybe we should divert money to, I don't know, lobbying Michigan government or the Michigan Public Utilities Commission, because it seemed like DTE they just weren't really buying in.
Well, Jack, yeah, I'm happy to share the model with you too. I'd say Julie's response is pretty spot on. It's complicated with DTE. They're a partner sometimes, and we are a partner sometimes, and sometimes we are the agitator in those conversations. And we're working on strategies that are all of those things with them. So we are, they were actually one of our technical advisors to creating A2ZERO. So they were at the table with us the entire time. You know, they saw what was coming. So were we surprised that they called in? No, not really. But I think in some ways it actually reinforced the plan when our utility, our monopoly utility, was actively against it, and everyone knew they had engaged in the process. It sort of helped in some ways. So you're super astute, and would look forward to a further conversation with you about some of this.
I have a question about the e-bike program.
Yeah.
I'm just being that this is a neighborhood association meeting, like I'm just struggling to see like what kind of tie-in the e-bike program has to any of the neighborhood organizations. And I just wonder if you've thought about that. I mean, for me, like the vehicle charging and zoning laws and getting that into new developments and things make sense. But I mean, there's been such a massive acceptance of bicycling with COVID, and I think it's a real opportunity to get a lot of people involved in that, but I don't really see how to tie that into my neighborhood. I don't know if you guys have thought about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, John, and how to frame that, it could probably be done a few different ways. It's not something I've thought about a ton, but things I have thought about are how, as we support non-motorized transport and micro-mobility, how that makes our neighborhoods safer and more resilient. And I think that is one way to at least broach the topic, as you know, these things can seem disconnected, but the more people in our neighborhood that aren't relying on cars, or that can navigate their lives in ways that
I comment on this question. I see this whole neighborhood association network as being communication nodes. I think, if I can presume, I think that the intent is for us to simply serve as pass along communication nodes. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that's a really important point, Vivian, and I would see that. Sometimes there are other things that may emerge. And John, to your point, I just want to add on, this actually came, the e-bike bulk buy, not from e-bikes. It came because we were trying to think about traditional bikes. And I don't know if anyone's tried to buy a bike, but you can't, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't right now because people are biking. And part of that also ties to this Healthy Streets initiative that the city is running right now. And if you live in one of the neighborhoods in which your street is being kind of, there's no pass-through traffic, you know, you're probably seeing more walking and biking. And so that might be a chance, to Vivian's point, maybe just to advertise it as opposed to necessarily participating, versus maybe running a SOLARIZE event, or even just knowing about the Healthy Streets initiative. And if your street's not closed, but it should be, how do you even get input into that to make sure you can make your voice and your neighbor's voice heard?
I could see this becoming an electrified or a hybrid bike share program that had a solar charging post in a neighborhood. I think that would be a wonderful way to introduce it to the community.
I love that.
Yeah, I do think about, I mean, just, you know, in terms of the city, you know, electric plugins at your, you know, bike hoop at your office or something, you know. I mean, we're thinking about that for electric cars, but I don't know if the city's thinking about that for e-bikes, you know, that kind of.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thanks for bringing that up. I think those are great points.
Galen, do you want to bring us home with the neighborhood engagement thing, and then we could just leave time for our Q&A?
Yes. Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Galen Hardy once again, and today I'm going to talk to you about two things. I'm going to talk to you about the Sustaining Ann Arbor Together grant, and then I'll also touch on our A2ZERO Ambassadors program that's going to be smoking hot when it comes out. But the Sustaining Ann Arbor Together grant is intended to promote and resource community-based activities to help residents complete small-scale projects in the right-of-ways and on city property, which includes Ann Arbor Public Schools property as well. And it's also a way, you know, I see that residents can, you know, organize around activities, you know, right now. So, you know, this is a great tool, you know, just to get people to come together, especially if you haven't been as active or you want, you know, to do things, but you might not have the funds. Grant amounts are up to $10,000. And some larger projects are approved on a case-by-case basis. And annually, we give out about $100,000 for community-based projects across the city. Some of the grant requirements are really, really, you know, just straightforward through. You need to have evidence the proposed location for any temporary or fixed installation is suitable for its proposed use. So you want to make sure that whatever you're putting, just say you don't want to put a garden somewhere where, you know, there's a lot of heavy foot traffic or, you know, or a place where it couldn't be properly taken care of. You want to make sure that you have a completed signed application and include the scope of work. You know, that's going to tell us, you know, how far or how in depth your project is, you know. So also, you want to make sure that you add the projected maintenance costs and who's going to be responsible for the future maintenance costs. So for another grantee or an applicant, you know, they were like, you know, talking about, well, we want to do this, you know, project, but we're like, okay, 5 to 10 years from now, you know, who's going to maintain this? So whatever you put out there in the public, on public property or right away, you want to make sure that, you know, you got the future maintenance taken care of. Also, you want a statement describing the benefits that will result from the project and how it will be measured and evaluated. And totally, and this, please do not forget this one. You need evidence of support from your community stakeholders. And what that means is if you're putting something in a park, you want to go out and do your community engagement with neighborhoods adjacent to that park so that you get their buy-in or you get their feedback. You don't want to do anything without having community engagement, you know. Right here is a sample of some of the projects we've awarded this year. We've awarded Bryant Community Center, you know, for outdoor classroom with solar integration. We funded New Wings for Old Bicycles with Comet Cycle. Then also we've, you know, given a grant to the Community Action Network for Resilience Through Renewables and Battery Storage. That's going to be at their Northside Community Center. Also, Arrowwood Hills Cooperative and Community Action Network partnered to create an on-site food pantry with eco-friendly refrigeration and freezer capabilities. And then we also funded A2 STEAM for their project on solar curriculum and installation. So, you know, we put these up here. It's a wide range of things that we fund. So, you know, hopefully, you know, this you know, get your doggone, you know, get your juices going and whatnot. So that's that. Any questions about the Sustain Ann Arbor grant before I move on to A2ZERO ambassadors? No? I can't see the hands if you put your hand. You could just chime in if you like. Okay, A2ZERO ambassadors. This is a program that's coming out November of 2020. You know, we figured that in November, you know, with COVID and everything else, you know, that's going on in the world, we might need something, you know, to keep our mind off things and, you know, be able to see other people. So this is going to be a virtual 8-week course. And we created the A2ZERO ambassadors to help us engage and educate residents on ways to enhance neighborhood and individual climate action and sustainability. As an ambassador, you will learn various ways to advance sustainability and carbon neutrality. And then what you're going to do is operationalize that information. You're going to put that information to work, you know, in the community to become an ambassador. And all we ask is that you attend an 8-week course. Now, it's probably going to be 2 hours per course per week. And then also, you have to support the implementation of a community project that advances sustainability and carbon neutrality. And then we ask that you also, you know, perform 20 hours of volunteer work, you know, either with, you know, like peer-to-peer learning, you know, talking to your neighborhood associations or adjacent neighborhood associations about the A2ZERO program, churches, other community groups, Rotary clubs. So what we see an ambassador as being like another arm of outreach, you know, for us, because we can't be everywhere, and, you know, and it's better when residents hear it from another resident, you know, because they already have that buy-in, and, you know, we can really get, you know, a nuclear, you know, a good nucleus going. So some of the courses, you're probably wondering, like, what are these courses going to entail? You know, 8 weeks, but it's a holistic approach to sustainability. We start you off with introducing you to sustainability, environmental justice, and equity. Missy talked about it earlier. Our A2ZERO, you know, one of the pillars is equity. And, you know, anybody that works with us, our partners or whatnot, you know, we sent them through equity training. Just, you know, just to make sure that everybody is on that same sheet of music. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing, that we're not dumping on those people who can least afford it. So that's why we say equity is highly important. But you'll learn energy efficiency, energy electrification. You'll learn more about renewable energy, water efficiency, stormwater, and watershed management, transportation. Just like Missy said, we have a goal of cutting our vehicle miles traveled by 50% in the next 10 years. So learning how, you know, to move throughout the community without using, you know, fossil fuel power engines or whatnot is paramount to us reaching that goal. Or e-bikes. Also, the circular economy. You know, you'll learn about recycling, composting, material reuse, you know, and Missy touched on that a bit. You know, we want to encourage folks to stop buying new items. We want to encourage more tool libraries, toy libraries. We want to encourage more use of the resale shops. That keeps materials in circulation. So as they break, we take them out of circulation and we just keep the circle going of materials being reused. Also, local food. That's another one of our priorities, you know, increasing a plant-based diet. So you'll learn here, you'll learn more about local food, how to grow it, eat it, and where to find it. And then you'll learn more about personal and community resilience. Here, you'll learn about the importance of resilience hubs. And we have a goal, you know, by 2030 to make sure that we have at least one resilience hub in each ward. Resilience hubs are places when there's an emergency and, you know, the help won't be there for 2 or 3 days and residents are kind of left on their own. Well, the resilience hub is the rally point in that neighborhood where you can go and get a shower, you can get food, you can get medical attention. Or if this is a flood prone area, you might have access to rafts and place, you know, to go get the seniors out of the community or help others until help comes. And then once again, at the end, we'll tie it all together in our A2ZERO and U course. This course is going to cover how to become involved in volunteering. You'll learn more about community engagement, and you'll learn more about volunteering with the City of Ann Arbor and Give 365. This course in particular is going to be focused on how ambassadors can support the implementation of A2ZERO in their own households, their neighborhoods, and throughout the community. And during this session, we'll also make preparations for our full class implementation project. And that's the project that cohort would perform together. And if you need any more information, my information is right here. You can go to www.a2gov.org/sustainability. Or if you want to email me personally, you know, if you got any questions, you know, you might leave tonight and say, oh God, I want to action this. You can reach me at ghardy@a2gov.org. And I definitely return all of my calls or whatnot. So any questions right now? I've said a bunch.
You said everything.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we want to get into like an update. We want to ask you, you know, or answer any burning questions about A2ZERO and how it applies to you and your neighborhoods. And then after, we'll take 10, 15 minutes on that. And then we'll take the last portion just to get updates from you, because we want to hear from you, what's going on in your community. If you got any upcoming meetings, if you want us to come out or anything, you know, you want to help, you need help organizing, or you got any question you want us to come out and answer, that's that time to ask. So we'll talk about A2ZERO and how it applies to you right now, if you got any questions.
Galen, can you stop sharing screen so we can see everyone better?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Teamwork. The team. Okay. Any questions about A2ZERO and how it applies to you, your community? Vivian?
What?
Oh, I thought you had a question.
No, I didn't say a thing. I was actually wondering when I can quit and get some dinner.
Okay. Okay, if there's no questions about A2ZERO, we want to go through and get some updates from you guys. If you have any upcoming meetings that you want us, you know, to be knowledgeable of, or you want us to come out, you know, please inform the group, because you could have some adjacent neighborhood associations, and this could be a good time to network, you know, just say hi to each other or whatnot. So any updates from your communities, because we want to hear from you. And then I have another question. How often would you like to meet?
Well, I can start with giving my pitch if no one else will step up. So I'm here as a representative from Sunrise Ann Arbor, which is not really a neighborhood association, although we are our own sort of online community at this time. And so Sunrise is a national movement towards climate justice, and we've decided to partner with the A2ZERO plan because we believe that it's the closest thing that we have on the local level to what we want to really see on the national level. And so we currently are doing some electoral work. Our plan is to hopefully partner with A2ZERO in pushing for some of the legislation that is really necessary to get this plan enacted. And if you are interested in Sunrise Ann Arbor,
Because
Then I can drop our email. Or is there a good way that I could share the email, or
In the Q&A maybe. Can you put it in the Q&A?
I don't think it will allow me to. But anyway, we have a Facebook page if you want to message us there. And we would love to have your support as we push for the necessary legislation to get this done.
All right. Anyone else?
Can I put my hand up?
Yeah, this is Jack again. Hope I'm not talking over somebody. I just want to say, naturally, there are costs associated with this, and I think it's going to be to get public buy-in in Ann Arbor. I think financial transparency is going to be really important. It would be really, and I know I don't know that I read the absolutely latest version of your long, it's a very lengthy and informative briefing about all the different aspects. And it's the one that includes estimates of what the carbon footprint impact is. That's what I have looked at. I think, at least from the point of view of the Ann Arbor City budget, and we know, or we sort of expect, since pretty much the federal government, the state government, pretty much everybody is saying that they're going to be cash strapped thanks to the pandemic. I think it's probably really important to see, as far as you can predict, like what does the city budget input need to be per year, and how is that divided up? And I'm not asking for that now. Maybe you've already done it, but city council is going to, as I recall from what they approved, and they had to talk some members of council into it. It seemed like on the night. I think they approved the concept. Who isn't for climate neutrality or carbon neutrality? But they're really going to have to know what the budget numbers are going to be, and I think if there are millages and things like that have to be associated with this, those may get increasingly hard to sell. So maybe that's already out there, and I haven't looked. I certainly haven't looked at everything, but I'm just thinking that's something that, the city, if you haven't already done it, the city's in their budget, sort of in their budget process right now, I think. So you're going to have to be able to do that. I think we're all going to want to be able to see that, because believe me, as you try to talk to people, everybody's for reducing their carbon footprint until they find out they have to pay for it. So that's my 2 cents.
Definitely, thank you. Ms. Carmen.
So our organization has its next meeting next week, so that's too soon for us to be able to advertise enough to make it worthwhile. But perhaps in November, when we have our November meeting, we could get some of you to come and make a presentation, and we'll try to drum up attendance from the neighboring association to see if, and we would still do it. I'm sure we would, when I say come, it would be Zoom, so you wouldn't have to drive out. And I'll work to see if I can put that in place.
And what's the name of your association, Ms. Carmen?
Orchard Hills Maplewood Homeowners Association.
Okay. Henry?
Yeah.
So that's the Thurston School neighborhood, and the other side of the school is the Bromley neighborhood. I think we could get those two neighborhoods to come, and it would be a good chance to have a discussion with people who haven't been reading the A2ZERO plan themselves.
Awesome. Henry?
Just a comment and a quick question. One, I would love to get updates for my neighborhood whenever any events are coming up. And also, obviously, Galen, I think we reach out to you if any events are coming up on our end, so we can let you know there's an opportunity. And then, you know, if there's a way to reconvene like quarterly with these groups, especially if there's something to update us on, you know, that would be great. Or if there's anything pressing for a shorter meeting. And then my other question, would applications for the grants be looked favorably on if neighborhoods work together on them?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right.
Yes, it's good to leverage those resources.
All right, great, thank you.
I just have a comment that I think, you know, your efforts are progressing pretty quickly. So I think it's good to have these routine sort of presentations about where you're at and your latest things. I don't happen to just follow some sort of spreadsheet somewhere that you're publishing your latest. So this is the best way really to hear a quick summary, and I can use these meetings as a, you know, a draw to get people more involved.
Yes, because we want to change the notion that, you know, that the city doesn't, you know, isn't engaged. You know, we want to build relationships with each and every one of you. You know, if you need to call us, you got questions, you know, we got open doors and open ears for all of you. You know, so please spread that word, you know, and keep us involved. And we're going to do our darndest to keep you guys involved, you know, either quarterly, by monthly meetings or whatever it is. You know, we're going to be there, you know, in your ear, keeping you abreast. Because for the next 10 years, we have to go lockstep together. Yeah. We can't go without you.
Yeah. And we can, I mean, we can bring the neighborhood together. We have our annual meetings, and we can have others to generate community involvement.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Kate, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I'd like to know, when you're coming out to the neighborhood for the first time, what's the summary of the agenda? And I can guarantee that my neighborhood would also want to know, what are the costs associated and how is this being funded?
Okay.
So that'd be one thing that they definitely want to know. But there's also programs that you presented that they would want to dive into in deeper depth. So,
yes.
The grant program, I think the hybrid bike program, they might be interested in doing something with that. Definitely the SOLARIZE.
And please keep us, you know, if you have a meeting coming up, give us like about a couple of week heads up, and we'll definitely come out and talk about A2ZERO, talk about the grants, you know, e-bikes, bulk buys, you know, and other programs that we have, you know.
We don't meet on a regular basis. We seem to meet when there's another effort to violate zoning ordinances. and that's when our neighborhood meets, and then we meet every week.
I just wanted to jump in because I heard that. I apologize. I was on a call with Senator Stabenow just a second ago, so I was out of the space. But in the vein of what you just said, absolutely, about having a really purposeful agenda. But I do want to offer, and I can't imagine Galen didn't say this, that we would love to craft that agenda with you, right? Like, you know, your neighborhoods and the issues. So if it's a stormwater issue that's bringing people together, let's start with stormwater. If it's preparedness, the grid's going down a lot, let's start there. So we can definitely have kind of a standard, but we always try to contextualize if there's something of relevance.
Okay, so would I call you, Missy?
You can call me. I'm going to put you in touch with Galen, probably.
Okay, I'll just email Galen then.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
I would also say, if I can jump into a couple people have mentioned, you know, the goal here with neighborhood leaders like yourselves is that I see Ann Arbor like kind of like a Venn diagram, right? So the city has so much outreach before we're an echo chamber, but you each individually have your own networks of people, and the neighborhood ambassadors program that Galen was talking about, each of those people have their networks of people, and eventually the goal is to reach out into all areas and segments of Ann Arbor that we can't get to without you. And that Venn diagram just keeps growing and growing until the overlaps are covering all the spaces.
Hey, I think we might be at time for our Zoom. Miss, you want to say something before we check out?
I was
Okay,
gonna say that's a wrap.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. Please, if you got anything that you might have a burning question later on tonight, email us, talk to us, and we're gonna talk to you. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Take care.